always love you.
Whoa, that is really something.
I really got a good. I
All
got a
right,
note in.
we are live. I have transformed now.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Hat on.
Can't hear you at all.
You can't.
Your hat looks cute.
Your hat looks cute, but you're muted.
Microphone. There we go.
Oh.
There we go. I said I have transformed my appearance in 3 minutes.
Oh.
And
Oh.
Great.
we are live, and I'm going to remove myself from the tiles here because on the live I show up in a little popped out tile.
We're live right now.
We are, but it's only 1 minute till and there's nobody in here. So
People can see us.
Well, either way, it'll be recorded. Like it'll go up.
It will, yes. Although I can edit it first, I believe. So, it is now 12:15. And I am just going to say for anyone who is watching live or who watches after the fact that we had to do some quick thinking this morning, or I guess it was morning when we did our quick thinking, because YouTube did not make this super easy for us. We discovered that you can live with an invited guest from your mobile device, but you can only do that if you have 50 or more subscribers. So if you have not subscribed to Threads YouTube feed, please do so, and then we can do this the way we wanted. But unfortunately, we had to make a Google Meet and then share the screen in YouTube Live, which means I know our video feed is a little bit glitchy, but I'm hoping that our audio feed is clear. And hopefully by tomorrow, we will be able to do this in the way we wanted. So welcome, Anna, Joy, and Rod.
Hey. Welcome to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. It's so good to have a chance to chat together about these lectionaries for Holy Week. Did you guys have a chance to check out the way that they are presented in that Vanderbilt link that I sent you?
Yeah, and how it comes with like art.
Yeah.
Links to art and stuff like that. I was like, this is the coolest thing.
Isn't it cool? I love it.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So our plan is for the three of us to primarily discuss the gospel reading each day, but we will have read the other readings as well. So if they feel particularly meaningful or relevant and there's something we want to pull out there, we will we'll do that too. But you know, I was thinking that it would be great to start our conversation each day this week with a prayer. And as I was looking through the lectionary readings, I realized that the psalm reading for today is actually just a perfect prayer to get us started with. So why don't I read that as an opening prayer, and then we will go from there. So it's Psalm 36, verses 5 through 11. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your judgments are like the great deep. You save humans and animals alike, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. All people may take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. Oh, continue your steadfast love to those who know you, and your salvation to the upright of heart. Do not let the foot of the arrogant tread on me, or the hand of the wicked drive me away. Amen.
Amen.
So the gospel reading for today is John 12, 11, or 1 through 11. And it would be good to start out by reading that as well. Anna, Joy, or Rod, would one of you want to read it for us?
Yeah, I have it in NRSV or ESV. Do you have a preference?
I prefer NRSV myself.
Yeah. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." When the great crowd of the Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests planned to put Lazarus to death as well, since it was on account of him that many of the Jews were deserting and were believing in Jesus.
So what stood out as we read this passage?
Have you ever I mean, most historical books, they're written after the fact by the people who won. And when I read John write about Judas, he says, "This is because he was a thief." And it makes me think about justice and Judas
Mm,
and who he is and where he's going and what's going to happen. And I think that his thought about wasting perfume or selling it to give to the poor, it feels right, to be honest. It feels like, yeah, but we get the whole picture, so we label that as bad. And it
mhm,
makes me think like, yeah, I don't think Judas was the devil himself. I think he had some trouble like I do understanding the way of justice and the way of
mhm,
Jesus and justice. Brian Zahn talks about Jesus being tempted in the desert to turn stones into bread, and he could feed the whole world, but if he does it without Jesus, it doesn't work. It's
mhm,
not kingdom.
mhm.
And I have some empathy for Judas there because I see him trying to do a good thing, and I see John saying after the fact, "Oh well, he's the bad guy, so and anything he says doesn't go."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I find that too, Rad, that it feels like a little harsh toward Jesus. Like in the moment, that would have seemed incredibly wasteful.
Hmm.
I think what stands out to me is, I've known the story of Lazarus forever. Like, and so reading through a story where it's like, so Jesus went to the home of Lazarus, whom he raised from the dead, la da 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 da, normal Tuesday,
Mhm, mhm,
feels like that's a really big deal. And it makes me think about um, just times when someone has been sick and people have gathered together to pray for them and hoped and believed. And then times when that person has died, that's kind of what it was like when Lazarus, he was sick for a while and they called for Jesus to come help. He didn't at first. So Lazarus died. And so for like a story like that to end then with that person coming back to life, like of course, like if I'm thinking of, a girl I know who lived in Kansas who was sick and died. And if she came back to life, I would go to Kansas just to see her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so like thinking of all these Jews like
Mhm,
coming and supporting Jesus even more because of this man, and the chief priests planning like, well, okay, this isn't going to work for us, so like we need to X this guy. It's wild.
mhm. When you wonder, like the chief priests, when they planned to kill Lazarus, since he was kind of the source of all this hubbub, like, did they not believe that he had actually been brought back from the dead? Or did they know that he had been and didn't care? That's a question. That's a big question that I have here.
That makes me think about power. And when we talk about systems being designed to preserve themselves,
Yeah.
it's such it is such an evil thing
Mm,
to desire to stay in power
mhm.
that you're trying to backtrack miracles,
Yeah.
that you'll do whatever it takes to stay in power. And
Yes.
and I think like Jesus knowing that when I see this party that he's having, this is before Holy Week starts. It's like before the right before he rides in. And
Mhm.
normally you would have the party after the procession.
Mm,
You would have but they're having their party beforehand
mhm.
because they know what's about to happen.
Mhm.
They're gonna go speak truth to power,
Mhm.
and and that power's gonna want them dead, and it wouldn't matter what you did.
Mhm.
They will try to reverse it so that their system can preserve itself.
Mhm. Yeah, boy, this feels a little timely, doesn't it, to talk about that reality. And thinking about the chief priests, um, even if they did know that Jesus had risen from the dead, we see that a lot in our current moment. I think that's something that's been really shocking to me in the past, 8 years or so, is like, it doesn't actually matter to a lot of powerful people what is true. um, and I used to be a little naive, thinking that somehow, oh well, if they just understood what was true, if they knew that, like, these programs work and keep people from starving to death or whatever, that they would, like, surely fund them. But no, that's not in the equation.
Mhm.
And that's where we learn the word proximity
Hmm.
early on when you get involved in justice and when churches get involved in Jesus's way of justice. Like the people who are bought in, like Mary, who's dumping, I don't know, even know how much years' wages this
Mm-hmm.
was, like,
Really.
but like so much.
Hmm.
She had seen Jesus throw an entire economy of pigs off a ledge to save somebody. Like,
Hmm.
so getting proximate with what the kingdom was about
Hmm.
had changed everyone who was close to Jesus's perspective.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's enough to like, yeah, the system doesn't care if it's true. Those chief
Hmm.
priests didn't care if it was true. They just knew it would wreck everything they'd built.
Right. And I think this is a really timely moment to say, something that um, Jewish scholars have rightly pointed out about the Gospel of John is that he can speak in really kind of negative ways about the Jews. And throughout the history of Christianity, there's been a lot of anti Semitism that has taken its cue kind of from a certain way of reading that. And so I think it's really important for us to state when we encounter those passages that this isn't about the chief priests as Jews per se. This is human nature. This is the nature of power as wielded by humans, aside from or in opposition to the way of Jesus. This shows up in every culture through every moment in history. So it's not
Yeah.
singling out the Jews.
And Rome is a factor here too.
Mhm.
Jesus is riding into Rome and they're freaking out
Mhm.
because he has a following. And so
Mhm.
Jesus does call out the temple, but it's also the Roman Empire that's been oppressing the people. So it's
Mhm.
even in Jesus's thing, it's wider than Judaism.
Right.
Rome is the bad guy too.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was just looking at the chapter right before chapter 12, like the end of it,
Mm.
and the Bibles, some of the Bibles have little titles in them. So this section is called The Plot to Kill Jesus.
Mm.
And because I was wondering, like, when Jesus said that Mary had gotten this perfume to prepare for his burial.
Mm.
She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial.
Mm.
Just before this, there was a lot going on that would have clued her into the fact that, like, Jesus was probably about to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, some of the people who had seen him raise Lazarus from the dead were celebrating and believed in him. And then it said that some went and told the Pharisees what he did. So the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the council to kind of figure out what to do, because their fear was that if Jesus keeps going like this, everyone will believe in him and the Romans will come and destroy both our holy place and our nation.
Yeah.
And so it was like they were afraid of people believing in Jesus, not because it was like against their own power, but because the Romans would like scrap it all.
Existential threat. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it says here that that Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
but he left there and went to a different town in a region near the wilderness with his disciples. And the Passover was coming, and people were talking. Verse 56, they were looking for Jesus and asking one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? Surely he will not come to the festival, will he?" And so there was a lot of like tension. And that makes me think like that's why Mary did this, because she might have been like, I don't know how much longer I have to do this, And she saw something, she saw something brewing.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, often throughout the Gospels when Jesus makes reference to his coming death, the Gospels very explicitly tell us that the disciples don't get it. They don't understand what he's talking about. And yet here we have indication that Mary did. I'd be curious to go back and look. Are there any other indications of any other disciple like getting it when he's talking about what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
So,
Well, and go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It just brings a bigger point to like the patriarchy of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Rome had silenced a lot of messiahs by this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not new.
Mm-hmm.
The men disciples, they seem to be convinced that he's going to overthrow Rome with some type of a power. She has a whole different view
Mm-hmm.
of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the fear, Rome is coming,
Mm-hmm.
the hammer's going to drop, but she understands the kingdom in the sense that she has more trust in Jesus than this amount of perfume that she's saved up for her own security in case everything goes haywire. But she also knows the hammer's going to drop. And so she uses that to prepare him for it. And it just shows like a level of faith that I don't think I fully understand. It seems a little mystical and quite abstract. And for her to be a woman in that time, wow, like she's taken a stand for something that she cannot see the outcome, but she believes it wholeheartedly. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, man, that's so profound. I haven't really thought about that like if she does kind of intuit what's coming, our natural gut instinct is to hoard our resources against the day of disaster. And instead, even though she senses the disaster that's coming, she pours out her entire security against the future. I mean, that I had not thought about, and that is really something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the party before the party. It's like her and Jesus are the only two that get it. They're like, we're not going to be able to have this triumphal party after this. We're going to do it now.
Yeah. Wow.
And so Judas jumps in and says, why are you doing this? Like, we're not doing this right. And Jesus is like, she's doing it right. she knows what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And the thing that I'm like, how does she know?
Yeah.
What does she know that I don't know?
Mhm. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, man, that's 20 minutes. Can you believe it? So I guess that's our conversation for today. And hopefully by
Keep going
tomorrow
for
we will
hours.
have worked out some of our bugs and glitches. But boy, what a gift. Thank you to both of you for
Thank you. This is fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. I like
Yeah.
it.
Good. Good.
That
All
was
right.
fun.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Bye.